Hello, we are so pleased to have Sherri Stevens back with us today for our WOI Ask Me Anything. So, we had Sherri Stevens with us previously, and we have some unanswered questions that we'd love to pick her brain about. So, Sherri, I'm just going to jump right on into
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
First, tell us more about the very first company you created on your own. What was the name of it, and how and why did you start it?
It was called Stevens Resource Group, and I started it out of necessity. I know that sounds really odd, but what had happened previous to that, I had quit my job in Toronto because I always wanted to be a flight attendant. Just to back it up just a bit, be a flight attendant. I achieved that goal, and I did it for 2 years in Toronto, and I hated it. Absolutely. You've heard this story, but I couldn't do it anymore. So I moved home to Woodstock, Ontario, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And so I thought, well, you know what? I worked for a staffing service in Toronto. So I'll look to see what's in Woodstock. And there was just one staffing service. So I decided to, why not? Right. I have nothing to lose. I have no money, no man, no nothing. So, so I just started the business because I needed to do something. It was the 1990, it was a recession. So there were really no jobs to be had. So I started my own. And that's how it just started that way. And I had no idea what I was doing, honestly. I just picked up a piece of paper and I started jotting down what I thought this business could be.
That's pretty remarkable to build something on your own during a recession, being resilient. That's fascinating. And then how big did it get?
So I had the business for almost 30 years, and we grew it to be 10 locations in Canada and 2 locations in the US. And we grew it to be, it was a $32 million company at one point. Yes. So, and it transitioned, right? So I think you need to remember that as you're going, whether you're going through your career or, as an entrepreneur, or maybe not, maybe, doing what you're doing, Amanda or Charlotte, and just being really tuned in to anything that comes up, right? Like always being open to new ideas, right? To change, right? Just to make sure that you're being viable, right? That you're learning and you're growing. So when I started the business, we started as a staffing service for clerical admin workers. And then I got a call from a manufacturing organization, automotive. I had no clue. I knew typing, I knew admin because I'd done it in high school, right? And I had also done it in Toronto. But when it came to manufacturing and building cars, no clue. So he wanted to talk to me because they needed 50 production associates. So I went to speak with him, and I was very open to the concept. I wanted to learn more about their business, what kind of their values, what were they looking for in their team members, et cetera. They took me on a planned tour. They showed me some of the processes. So I started to learn and try to understand, what their requirements were. And that was kind of the tipping point for Stevens Resource Group, was that one client, because then it just snowballed from there. So you always have to be open to those opportunities, right? Like I had a mentor really early on that said, even if you're thinking, yeah, I don't want to do that. Like I don't even want to, like, just do it. Like talk to the person or even look at that idea or that initiative and see if that's something that, could this work? And if it doesn't, it's fine. But at least you're not just saying no right off the bat, right? Like look at every opportunity because you never know what doors they'll open.
Yeah, that's great. Such wise words saying just being open to possibility and saying yes to things to get exposure. So you did say yes to one thing, which was buying Women's Executive Network.
Yes.
Could you tell us
Mhm.
more about WXN? Where was it then? Why did you decide to buy it?
Mhm.
And tell us the story there.
Sure. So I spent, almost, 30 years with SRG, and I wanted something more. It's not that I didn't appreciate or didn't learn a lot through SRG, but I wanted to leave more of a legacy. I don't have any children. I have four fur babies, but I don't have any children. So it was like, what am I leaving behind? How am I, advancing women and opportunities for women, right? How am I leaving that legacy for them? How am I taking all my experience and all my expertise and helping women climb up the corporate ladder, or women who are entrepreneurs and want to do more with their business? How am I going to influence them, right? And that was a whole part of WXN when it came up for sale, and the owner came to me and said, hey, are you interested? I'm a 2-time award winner, top 100 award winner, right? So I did know the organization. I loved it. I loved what it stood for. And I thought, you know what, this is it. This is the opportunity. This is what I put out into the universe, right? Like, what's next for me beyond SRG? Because it's time to close that chapter. And that became available. And I thought, yeah, I think I'm going to invest in this and to do this so I can help other women and share my experiences. So yeah, it just happened, and here we are 8 years later.
Amazing. And I love that your whole philosophy was to uplift and give visibility and leave a legacy of elevating women. I think that's amazing. So, with WXN, how has it changed and evolved over time? I know there was a pandemic, which obviously
Yes.
probably impacted it. But
Yeah.
what what has the ride been for you so far with WXN, and where is it going?
So it's been bumpy. It's not been a smooth ride, and that's fine, right? Life, that's life. That's what happens. You just have to learn how to shift through it. And when I first bought it, it was like drinking water from a fire hose. Like it was really difficult. And I did not expect that. As an entrepreneur, building your own business, you think, oh, I got this. You know, I can handle it. No, it's different starting your own business than buying somebody else's business, right? Because you're buying a different culture. I didn't completely understand the business behind it. You know what I mean? I needed to learn. It was still a learning process because it was a completely different business than what I had been in. So it was just a lot the first year. And I did struggle. But I found people to help me, right? Throughout my career, I've always found mentors or coaches. I'm never be too proud to ask for help. So I made sure I found someone to help me with that. And then I finally got my footing, maybe 2 years into owning WXN. And after I got my footing, I started looking at the programs and all our offerings and thinking, what can we do differently? How can we keep innovating? You should be very careful when you have a 25-year-old organization. It can become old very quickly and stale very quickly. Even in your career, right? You always need to refresh, right? You always need to look at your brand, even your personal brand, and keep rebranding, right? And keep reinventing yourself. And if you own a business as an entrepreneur, keep reinventing that business. And that's basically what we did. So some programs we just shelved because they either weren't profitable or they just weren't with the time, right? They just weren't popular. So we started looking at how can we, do we shelf them or do we reinvent? Do we recreate? And that's kind of what we did with some of the programs. We reinvented them, we recreate fresh new look, right? Bold new messages. We changed the branding as well. Those little tweaks people started noticing, like, oh, this is different. This is new. This is refreshed. I like this. And we also started doing something we've never done before, and that's actually measuring. So looking at KPIs, right? The external KPIs. And because we're a very public company, very public focused, right? Like, with our partners, they're a lot of them are FP 500 organizations, right? Big companies. We want to make sure that we were walking the talk, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not pressuring them. That's the wrong word, but we're encouraging them to have more women on their boards. We're encouraging them to have more women in executive leader positions, right? We're encouraging them to keep filling their pipeline. So if we're not doing it ourselves, how can we, encourage them to do it. So what we started doing is the first thing we started doing is measuring our top 100, because that's our flagship, right? That is the most popular, is kind of the Academy Awards, right? For women in Canada.
Absolutely. For
Everybody
women in
knows that, you know
Canada.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started measuring it because we did not have a lot of diversity in the awards program when I first bought it. So in 2015, I had a lot of our customers come to us and say, or partners say, what are you going to do differently? Every single year, there's the same women on the stage at the top 100, and they all look like you, Sherri. So that was like, okay, give me some time. Let me take a look at this. So what we started doing 2 years in, we started going to diverse organizations and associations, right? Because they didn't know who we were. So if you don't know who we are, how are they going to know to nominate their women? So we started doing that. In the first year, we came in at 16%, so 16% of diversity within our top 100 award winners. And I said, that's not good enough. We need to do better. So last year, we came in at 61%.
Wow.
Right. So it's a complete flip. And so we're very proud of that. And that's a lot. That's actually what's changed. So our ecosystem is just beautiful tapestry of women. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because it's changed so much. Right. And just every walk of life, every woman, every ethnicity, everything is it's there. Right.
And I think that's super important to be able to share that back with those organizations that you know that you're tapped into, being like, hey, look, we were able to accomplish this.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Leading by example back to all of those big organizations that diversity is possible.
Exactly. And it is. You just have to really focus, right? And be very deliberate about it. So, yeah. So
I'm
that's
going to pass it over to Charlotte now to ask some more questions and sort of switch on our topics here.
Sure.
Well, one last follow-up I wanted to ask was with SRG. What was if you were to say the top three reasons of your success? I know it's hard to narrow it down, but even just a couple of what you would define as like your key drivers to how you got where you were.
I think, I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I didn't, I was 26 years old. And so I don't know if it was intuition or if it was just because I didn't know what I was doing. Needed help. But the drivers for success was I actually got a coach and a mentor very early on in my business. So they helped me with, how to read a financial statement. I had no idea, right? Policies and procedures, what is my net profit? What is my gross profit? What's a good gross profit? I don't know. Let's look at that. How to expand my business? I don't know. So he was and he was a man, and he was in his 60s. He'd been a president of a mining company up north in Northern Ontario, right? So he was my very first mentor, and he was very instrumental in shaping my business and also shaping my leadership style. In that, I did not want his leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lesson learned too. We can talk about that a little later. But so the first thing was, the driver for success was getting a mentor and a coach. That really helped me. The second thing was that I joined the community. So I got out there. I started networking, right? I needed to know people, and people needed to know me, because people will buy, right? From people that they trust, right? And that they know. Not even buying, but even if you're in, a corporate organization, getting out there and into your external and your internal networks and getting to know people, because they'll help you. They'll either sponsor you, they'll mentor you, and they'll help you move forward in your career if they know you and they trust you. Right. So that was the second thing. The third thing I think I already mentioned is I wanted to succeed. So I was very open to any opportunities that came up. Right. Very flexible, open. I wanted to learn. That was very exciting for me to learn new new industries, right? New clients, even moving into the US. That was one of the highlights of my career, is actually opening an actual company in the US. So I think those are the three drivers for me.
Amazing. I mean, you're obviously very driven, and that drive for success is very apparent now. I really want to go back to that first one, which was you referring to your mentor or coach. Obviously, we're huge supporters of mentorship, but if someone is still looking for a mentor, trying to figure out what the right fit is, or even starting the process, what would be some suggestions you'd have for them?
So I don't think it won't be 100% right. Like it just won't be 100% fit. If it is, good for you, but most of the time it won't, right? Because we're all different. And I think there has to be some commonality, maybe not so much, you don't have to find someone in the same industry. I think sometimes we get so narrow focus, like on that I need to have somebody that's from my industry, I need to have a woman, I need to have this, I need to have that. That's fine, but always like be open to other opportunities. Maybe it is a man, which is not a bad thing, right? Maybe they're not from your industry. Maybe they're not from your company. Maybe they're external. And ways to find them is through your network already. Like who do you know that could help you? Even WXN, like we have a mentoring and coaching program, right? Where we actually will match the women to our top 100 award winners. They are the mentors, which is great, right? So I think it's just being open, and being really aware of the process. Like don't think your mentor is the be all and end all, right? Like even if you get 50, 60, 70% of what you need from that person, that's good. Like you may not get 100%, but you also may learn some really valuable lessons as well.
What would be one of the lessons that really that still sticks with you today?
So for me, for my mentor, he was great at the policies and the procedures, but he was not the leader that I would want to be. So at first I tried to mimic his leadership style, and it didn't work for me. So I think sometimes we get caught up in, oh, that person's really successful, or she's really successful, I want to be just like her. You know what? You are you, and you be you. Because once you start being like somebody else, it becomes very incongruent. And you will feel it very quickly, right? It's just, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be authentic to who you are as a leader, right? He was very stoic, very matter of fact, a little stern, and that's not me at all. Like I'm compassionate, right? I'm pretty authentic. Like you can read me pretty well, but back then in the 90s, it was like, well, that's weak, but it's not. Now we've come to realize that being a compassionate, authentic, real leader is strong. So that was my lesson learned with him.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's great. I think as you touched on there, saying that a mentor can't be 100%. I mean, they're only human too. And your competitive edge is being you, right? So don't try to mimic. I think that's a fantastic takeaway for people to really listen and develop their own self and their own brand. So kind of pivoting again here, as someone with your SRG group, you've placed thousands of people into roles, and you now have your own business where you hire. What is it that impresses you the most with in an interview or with a candidate, and what is it that you really look for when you're looking for top talent?
Okay, so let me think back here. So I look for people that have done their homework, for one thing. One of the first questions I ask, so tell me about SRG or tell me about WXN. What do you know about WXN? Right? If you haven't even been on the website, if you haven't even looked at who I am, then I have a problem with that. Right. If you want to work for this organization, you better know, what you're applying for and who you're working for. So that's one of the things that I look for. I also look for attention to detail. I want people who are going to really look for that detail and really look for how can I make this better? Right? How can I improve this? I just don't want status quo. People who just come in and do the job, right? I want people who've actually made things happen or, change something or brought a great idea to their work, things like that. So one thing I will do just to see if there's attention to detail is I'll be talking to them and then I'll go like this. What color is my jacket? What color is my jacket, Charlotte? What color is my jacket?
White, cream.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to see if they're paying attention.
Yeah.
Or what colors are in the picture behind me. And I do that, especially because it's a Zoom call a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
Anymore. So that's another thing that I look for. And I think just the willingness to learn. Like they don't have to have 100 years of experience. I want people that are flexible because you can teach people who are eager to learn better than you can anybody else. So
yeah.
I'm just happy I got your jacket color right. I would have been really bad if I
was asking what the picture. I thought that's mean. Just ask, where's my jacket or my cape?
That's funny. Well, yes, happy I got that right. It kind of reminds me of like I don't want to say like a sunset, but it had some of a sunset vibe. So I would have just said like, that kind of not tropical sunset, but more of a moody one that we get towards the fall this year in Toronto. When you had come in for your talk, you were very open, honest, vulnerable, and provided a lot of information about your upbringing and some challenges you had experienced during your childhood and early adult life. Do you think that was a huge contributor to who you are today, or do you think that perhaps you'd still have the same success if your childhood was different?
I think I would have some success. I think just because of my mom was a huge influence, right? She's very resilient and she's very ambitious. She's never she's here with me in Arizona right now. She's staying until May. She's not going to be 95.
Wow.
She has her own place that she's rented. So she's just that bold, strong, right, woman. And I think that would always have been an influence. The difference being, and I don't want this to sound, bad or anything, but my dad, because of his manic or bipolar, and he didn't stay on his meds, he was very controlling, and very demanding when he wasn't on his meds, right? So I think even though I was his little angel and he loved me when I was a child, I think as I got older and I became more independent, I think it would have changed my trajectory. I probably would have maybe gotten married earlier. I don't know. I just think it would have been different because I don't think he would have given me that freedom to do what I wanted to do, how my mom did that, right? How she gave me that freedom. Because he was very hard on my sister, my older sister. Like he did beat her as well. So it was hard for her, so I don't know, that could have been my future as well. It wasn't, but it could have been, and it could have shifted how I live my life as well. But my mom's influence is so strong that I think I would have still been a very strong woman. And I think I would have excelled at something. I don't know what that would be, but I think I would have still have excelled. And another thing too is that, because of my father's death, my mom entered into a completely new world, right? Because she didn't have this control over her anymore.
Right.
So she started traveling. I told you, we went to the Bahamas, right? So she started taking me to all these places. And I don't think I would have been a flight attendant if she had not been able to travel, and then being a flight attendant and then not failing, but just not liking it, right? And then taking me into SRG. It just the way your life works, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's not always easy to talk about things that were hard in our lives, but it obviously did, was a contributing factor to making you probably as resilient as you are now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that resiliency is obviously very clear from your mother and for you, and it's pretty phenomenal when you have that sort of matriarch that can lead by example, and that's very special.
She's cheeky.
Yeah.
She's still cheeky.
At 95, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So back to that resiliency piece. During this journey that you've had, were there times, with your businesses that you wanted to give up? And if so, what did you do to pivot or overcome from those super challenging experiences and times?
Oh yeah, of course. There were a lot of times that I wanted to give up. I think when I first started SRG, the very first year, I was just like, what am I doing? This isn't working. It's just so I started thinking of other things that I could do with my life. And then when I started thinking of the things I could do with my life, I'm thinking, I don't want to do that. Like I think I can make this work. Right. So I started very slowly and I kept pushing forward. Like I just kept showing up. Right. Just kept showing up. Went to the chamber meetings. I was and then I started getting involved in the committee on the chamber. And then I became the first female president of the chamber. It's Woodstock, right? It's not like it's Toronto, but it was still a step in the right direction, right? So I just kept pushing forward. My husband was really great. I mean, he was the main breadwinner at that point in time. I think I was bringing home $250 a month, honestly, just to even pay for groceries. And then I just kept going out and meeting people and talking to them and hoping they liked me. And some point in time, they would want to use our services. And they did. We were competing with Kelly Services in Woodstock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And at the end, they left town because we became the dominant, right? Because of the service we provided. It was very personal. It wasn't, because we were the only one, like one location, right? We were very customer focused. And then with WXN, yeah, the first year I was really, I almost quit. Like I didn't know what to do. And I don't think it was WXN per se. I think it was just my life at that point in time. Right. It was, I had SRG, I was going to sell it. So that was hard because it's like your child, right? You're giving up your child to somebody else that could ruin them. Right. And my sister passed away. Right. Mm-hmm. I bought WXN and my husband and I separated. Right. So I think it was more the personal things that were affecting how I was reacting to WXN. So again, I found help. Right. So I went in, I found therapy. I went in to help, get some help. When you recognize, I think you really need to stop and say, okay, I can't do this anymore by myself. I need to find someone to talk to, whether that's a friend, whether that's a therapist, whatever that looks like. That's really important. And I saw that, I think that's just from my father too, right? Just recognizing his challenges and thinking, am I going to be like that when I get older? I don't want to go down that same road, right? Because his blood does run through my veins too, right? You know what I mean? I'm very aware of that and I need to know when to get help. So.
Yeah, I think we're all really, the world's changing in terms of how we view mental health and the importance it plays in your overall picture of who you are and how you can contribute, right? So
yes.
That is good to remind everyone that mental health is as important as physical health and all the things to keep you functioning on all cylinders.
We can't do it on our own, right?
No.
I mean, I liken it to if you break your foot, you go to the doctor, same thing. If you're challenged mentally, you have to ask for help
and not to be shameful about it.
No shame.
We're human. It happens, right?
We can't do it all alone.
No, we're not superhumans. We may think we are.
We'll try. Another question we had from our mentorship was about females and really how do you negotiate compensation increases or how do you deal with situations where perhaps a colleague is getting paid more and you feel that it could be due to maybe some gender bias or other issues. Can you talk about that?
Yes, so I've never really experienced, just so you know, I'm just prefacing this, I've never experienced that in my career. Being an entrepreneur, it's very different.
Mhm.
So what I've found helps with some other women I've spoken to in the last 8 years at WXN is they get a sponsor within their organization, right? Someone that can speak for them, someone that will introduce them to people, someone that can also help them in, how do you approach that? How do I speak to this person and not get upset, but, just look at not the emotion, but just the details of the situation, right? I think sometimes we get emotional about it. I think we need to back the emotion out of it
Mhm.
and come at it from a point of view, like how a man would really, you can take some lessons from men too, right? And how they approach things and just take the emotion out of it and bring the facts. I think not just going to someone saying, I need more money or I deserve more money. And you did that, this person, you did that. No, 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 no. We don't want to take the mud and throw mud at people, right? We want to make sure that we have the facts straight, that we're showing, this is what I've done over the past year, showing like walking the talk. Do you know what I mean? Like measuring, like what have I done? What are my KPIs?
Building that business case
How
essentially for
exactly
yourself.
how have I
Yeah.
contributed to the organization? What have I brought to the organization? You may look at it and go, oh crap, I haven't done really. I probably should do more. Right. You don't, right? You need to be
Yeah.
honest with yourself too. Right. Like, and look at the other people that maybe are getting an increase and what are they doing? How are they contributing? Are they contributing any differently than I am? I don't know. I need to look at that. Right. Like we need to really make sure we don't have rose colored glasses on when we're going to ask for an increase or we're asking for a promotion, right? And some other ways to look at it is to maybe go and say, look, this is what these are my goals. These are my 3 goals. I want to be executive vice president in 3 years. Is that possible? How can I get there? Show me. What's that look like? Right? Like sit down with a plan. Show them like you're a business person, right? Even a intrapreneur, right? So that's how I mean, that's just from my experience as an entrepreneur and a business person.
Right.
That's my lens. That makes
Well, I
sense.
think it's great advice.
I think so too. I think that's fantastic. I think we've basically covered all of our questions that we had for you, Sherri. Is there any one last piece of advice you'd like to leave our group with, or one last word of wisdom for us all?
No, I'm very, I just want everybody just to really be authentic, be yourself, try to walk through life, not as a mask with a mask, right? Like just as yourself and be the best that you can be as you are, right? I think too many people, especially women, we try to be like another person, or we try to be like the man that's, being promoted, always being promoted, and I just think it's really important to just sit where you are, right? And just be who you are, because it doesn't work any other way. Honest, trust me, I've been there, done that many times. It doesn't work. So I guess just be your authentic self. I know it's said a lot, but I think it's important. And ask for help. Always ask for help if you're feeling like you're overworked or overloaded. It's really important as well. And find that group, whether it's through WXN or within your worker community, like find that group that you can lean on, right? That you can ask for advice.
Great.
I love it.
Me too. Thank you so much, Sherri, for having additional time with us today and sharing more of your phenomenal, amazing story. We're very grateful to have your wonderful words of wisdom and for you to share your life and work experiences with us all. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on again. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, ladies. Enjoy your day and have happy holidays, everybody.